Hello, happy Sunday afternoon as I'm coming in here actually just ahead of the peak of our new moon in Taurus happening at 3:31 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is exactly 3 o'clock as I say that on my local time. So we are fresh in these new moon energies, which are really beautiful. I have some Taurus new moon Hertz music playing in the background with wind chimes. It's for grounding and bringing in the tones that are helpful for connecting in with this energy, which is really beautiful. The Taurus new moon reading has been recorded and is available. So if you've already received that from me, you may have already dove into those messages. And if not, it is available for anyone who would like to come along. It was about a 53-minute video. We got into all of the astrological energies that we're just moving into now, along with the spread, a ritual you can do in the coming days, all of the messages that came through that 5-card spread, and then the oracle cards as well. And then part 2 are your personal new moon card pulls. So if you're interested in that, do check that out or reach out. We have a lot happening this week because it's a hybrid week. Yes, we're still here in front of the April altar, but we're just winding that down because in just a couple days, it's gonna be May, right? So midway through the week, Wednesday, the last day of April, then we turn towards May. So when I talk to you today about the astrological weather, what's coming in this week, we're gonna cross over, touch on May a little bit overall, and then I'll share with you a couple of insights that take us through next weekend, just leading up to Pluto stationing retrograde. And until then, I can tell you that we're in a really beautiful forward-moving momentum because we currently have no planets retrograde, which will continue until next Sunday, May 4th. So this new moon in Taurus, the astrological weather with this forward moving momentum, getting ahead of myself, I'm so excited, is a wonderful window this week, exactly from today, Sunday, to next Sunday when Pluto stations retrograde, to really be tuning into what you wish to create, taking new steps, planting seeds, action items, etc., etc. And yes, we get into all of that in that new moon empowerment reading. We're going to touch in here to see what's coming up with our final week with the Spring Waite Tarot, and then I will be sharing as I turn over the altar space and choose all new decks and altar elements and intuitive message for May. That will all be rolling out, which means we're kicking off a new Empowerment Sharecast and Empowerment Pack. So new, all coming at you this week. Opportunities for us to connect there, as well as more comprehensively if you would like to join me for the May Empowerment Pack. We'll be diving into that this week too. Okay, so let's get into it here. We're going to pull our tarot cards in a moment. First, because it is the actual new moon right now as I'm speaking, we're going to consult the Queen of the Moon Oracle. I did pull a Queen of the Moon and a Queen of the Sun card for that new moon in Taurus empowerment reading. So I already know what came forward there, and we dove deep there. We're going to choose a new card here today in this energy. Let's spray the Moon Magic Aura energy. This is a beautiful new healing energy spray from Angelic Celestial Colors that I've been working with now for 2 lunations, I believe I've had the spray. It had just come out the other month for wishes, answers, healing, and guidance. This is really lovely and going to be definitely featured here, especially over these different lunations that we're moving through. So we'll bring that energy in and then tap in for our Queen of the Moon Oracle message today in the new moon, super moon actually. Of course, new moon, there's an absence of light, and being that it is occurring for many of us around the world in the daylight, of course, we're not seeing the moon, but we are absolutely all experiencing waves of this fresh energy that's coming through at this time. So let's see what's coming in from the Queen of the Moon Oracle, Taurus new moon for our collective messages this week. One card. One of my favorites. It's so funny. Okay, card 22, Wisdom. 22 came up last week, I believe, in the first oracle card we pulled, and we again had a reference to it at the end, and I then brought in Sandalphon, Archangel Sandalphon, and I still had it here just now before I came on to record, and I go, oh, nope, Sandalphon, I'll put you back over there now. Nope, he's back. I should have known when I was making the cheesy, it's going to be May, because he always brings me the music references. And of course, I was bringing in my best Justin Timberlake there. So getting all kinds of spiritual breadcrumbs here. We're going to talk about this one to kick our messages off. So wisdom comes in, which of course is a beautiful message. I know makes that the distinguishing between knowledge and wisdom, and the notion that there is this steady climb and development over time that is gained through wisdom. So we'll talk about that when we touch on those messages. Let's pull our 5 tarot cards for the week ahead with our Monday through Friday spread. And then we will pull a song of the grandmothers to punctuate our April altar and the messages that have come forward this month, where we started with the Fool at the beginning on April Fools. You know, we tapped into this energy of everybody plays the Fool, and on our Fool's journeys and moving around that wheel, and this notion of the Fool's journey and the archetypes that serve as those major stops along the way. So we've definitely covered a lot of ground this month. I think I may have one or two. I know I had asked for all of your burning tarot questions, and I got a couple. So while we're shuffling here, I know one of them was to speak about the different spreads. How come there's so many spreads? There's so many different, arrangements of cards out there. And, spreads are sort of like blueprints of intention. So when you create, we're doing it here. So this is a perfect example we'll talk through. We're using Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, a 5-card spread. And we're setting the intention. So we'll talk through that as we go. So Monday, we give the energy of that is kicking off our week. It's setting the tone for the week. So what do we need to know about this week? And then we name, whatever card comes forward holds that type of significance. So let's pull that Monday card for that position 1 in our 5-card spread. Oh, jumpy. Lots of flippers here. Oh, I just felt that one tap in. Okay, 7 of Swords. So this is that one that asks us to look at things that could be deceiving, things not being what they seem, and some of that sneaky energy. So we'll talk about that one coming in from Monday in that position. And now let's see what the second position of the spread is, Tuesday, which we call our potential block or challenge. So you see, by having a spread like this, week ahead spread, we give intention and meaning to each position. But then, the Empowered Tarot way is we're reading it as a story. We're weaving together all of those things cohesively. So it's not all happening in a silo, right? Time is not linear. So it's not like that 7 of Swords is only on Monday, etc. So Tuesday is a potential block or challenge this week. Last week, we got the beautiful Empress energy, which is the Taurus card of the major arcana, or one of them. Hierophant, also associated with the sign of Taurus. So let's see what's coming in. Knight of Pentacles. So a very earthy energy coming in here with some action, earth-oriented action. So that's coming in as a blocker challenge. And lately I've been feeling our challenges as like challenging ourselves, pushing ourselves in a productive way. Not just, oh, it's a challenge, it's coming up against us, but actually like we're striving for something, goal-oriented challenge. Wednesday in our spread, we give the position of a midweek blessing. Temperance just flopped out, but I'm going to put that back. These cards are very jumpy today. Wednesday, maybe that's part of that Knight of Pentacles. The challenge is to slow down, ground in, and see what blessings are just right there. 4 of Wands, beautiful. So we have this energy of the framework and the structure of home, family, tribe, celebration, beautiful energy there with the rainbow, the grapes, the abundance, the sunflowers. So that's a lovely blessing, and could show that on this last day of April, Wednesday, that there could be parties, milestones, celebrations, birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, occasions, all of those types of things are what we typically may see in a very practical way with a Four of Wands. So again, for all here, this is a general collective reading. So you're always going to find some things to resonate more than others. You're always invited to take what resonates and leave the rest, because there's always someone there to pick it up. And yet, I don't know, some way or another, we always tap into these things. And I love to hear all the wild ways that it shows up for each of us. So Thursday is how we are growing. And so let's call this, and again, using a spread to set intention and create meaning. We started the month calling it, okay, it's the first week, but it's also sort of setting the tone for the whole of the month. Now that we're in the final week of the month, how have we grown throughout April? So this week, yes, culminating, but how have we been growing and expanding in our wisdom, right? And in all that we are creating and co-creating. If you are here, it is not by mistake. And I feel that everyone that's here is really doing that work as a light weaver in the world, and really, looking to utilize all of these beautiful tools to connect more directly and profoundly with your higher self, your wise self, and really bringing all of that into alignment in how you live your everyday. So how are we growing? Let's see. One card. See, she says, I wasn't a block for you last week. I'm back, and I'm in Thursday's position of how we are growing and expanding. And it must be said, she is pregnant with possibility. The Empress is the Earth Mother, and she represents that beautiful energy of what we are gestating. And yeah, the labor pains and the contractions to deliver something into this world. She's Mother Gaia as well. So she showed up on Earth Day, actually, last week, which, again, it was that Tuesday position. Now we are culminating the energies of how we've been growing with this lovely energy once again. So we put that in there for Thursday. And we've got one more for our spread. So Friday, we give the position of wrapping up the week and putting that punctuation mark. So once again, this is May 1st. That's May Day, which is also really beautiful to have Mother Gaia on there, on the spread. And then Friday is May 2nd. Let's see what's coming in to wrap up the week and month as we've moved through this last partial week. And also kicking off May. So next week, when we tune in with our new deck and our new altar, then we'll really be looking at those cards to speak to not just that first full week of May, but also what we may expect throughout the month. Setting that tone. So Friday. Oh, isn't that perfect? So this is the last spring Waite tarot card we'll be pulling. And we pulled Wheel of Fortune, which you may recognize here in our altar cloth. So this is sort of like the cover girl of the deck in terms of really representing all of the energies of the four corners here and the wheel turning. So we move from one month to another. We have this beautiful energy of the bunny bringing in rebirth, renewal, spring energy, as this has been the spring Waite tarot. Of course, if you may be in the southern hemisphere, we're tapping into the frequency of spring. The lambs, the duckies, the birds, the butterflies, really beautiful here with all the symbols. And this is a fantastic card. And like I said, no surprise, the last two cards of the week, the first two cards of May, are major. So major. All right, now we're just going. We're playing with it too much. So we've got this sense of, major significant energy on our fool's journey, taking the leap into May, into a new month, into a new energy. So we'll talk about that for sure. Let's pull our final card here from the Song of the Grandmothers, rather. See what comes forward. This has been such a beautiful deck to accompany the messages this month, and just put a little extra on the end of each of our messages. I hope you've enjoyed them here this month. I know it was a challenging month, certainly for me, and I appreciate everybody's understanding and flexibility and such. And I hope that, you have really been able to connect in with the messages that we did bring through. And again, would love to meet you over in the May Empowerment Sharecast when I put that up later this week. So again, stay tuned for that. Let's see. Song of the Grandmothers, final message, closing out April, entering into May. Go with that one. Ooh, yes, light weavers, as I mentioned, grandmother spider, bringing in the frequency of creativity, permission to make. Spin your threads, your web create everywhere you go. Beautiful. A lot of rainbow energy this week. Love that. So we really have, and this is just beautiful. There's so many things to say about the spider energy as well, which is really cool because the spider actually is very connected for me with Archangel Metatron. So having Sandalphon and Metatron here, and we'll bring in that. I've shared many times. I know many of you have heard my stories about the spider and the connections to my Metatron attunement when I was studying Metatron color healing, and the many experiences that I had with the spider. I actually have on my blogs. I have 2 blogs on my website where I share sort of like all the little spiritual breadcrumbs and really cool things that happened during that period. So the spider stories out there. Maybe I'll share that link again this week in case you want to check that out. But we'll get into that when we talk about that oracle message for our week. Okay, guys, let's get into it. We're going to start with some of the energetic weather and roll forward with our messages. Thank you so much again for being here. Take a look at my link for the options to book with me for this week for the new moon and the May Empowerment Pack. Okay, let's take a look. All right, let's kick things off with our energetic weather for this week happening now. We're talking about the Taurus new moon today, April 27th. I'm recording on Sunday afternoon. It is 3:23 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So the new moon in Taurus is peaking in just a few minutes at 3:31 p.m. So this is an energy here and now that's welcoming in this fresh Taurian vibes, which is feeling earthy and grounded with new potential. And it's our official close. Every ending leads to another new beginning, right? So we're closing out eclipse season with this first new moon cycle. So a new lunar cycle is beginning here with this new moon, which is really helping to clear the eclipse energies into the background, sort of fading out. Not that the ripple effect of those things are not to be felt in the coming 6 months, but that we continue to start to have that more increasing forward moving momentum. So, if transformation or change has been brewing in our lives, we may be feeling a bit more settled now, or be able to see the new road that's been paved ahead. There's a clearing potentially, or an opportunity for us to start to feel some of that tangible forward-moving momentum. Now, there is some intensity that is flowing around this new moon, and that's coming from both Mars and Pluto. So yes, here and now, that could be bringing some rumbling or unsettling energies, especially in the world around us. Now, this is something that I get into more deeply in the new moon empowerment reading. If you would like to join for that, it's already recorded and ready to roll. And we get into more of this energetic weather around some strong energy that is pointing to unrest in the global community and perhaps even some economic downturns. So we get into that. We talk about the importance of being mindful, not fearful, in terms of understanding the energies that are streaming onto the planet and how they may be showing up for us in both the macro and microcosms. So this is bringing our focus back to what we wish to focus on. So that's going to be important here. Something I said many times last week, especially with this beautiful Empress who's back again, we don't feed the weeds, right? In our spiritual garden, in the things that we wish to create, we wish to experience more of, we don't perseverate on the weeds. We see the weeds, we're aware, and we attend to them where we must, but we're focusing our energy on what it is that we wish to bring forward. So again, we're really in this energy now with this new moon. Also this week, on April 30th, we have the final day of the month. Venus enters Aries. So Venus will be re-entering Aries as it begins to regain its former speed and strength since her retrograde. So Venus returning to Aries may bring issues from earlier in the year back to the forefront. But this time around, we should be able to see things with a new and higher perspective. So this is beautiful. It folds in very nicely with our Queen of the Moon message of wisdom and just the understanding of, the spiral nature, nautilus shell medicine, as I like to call that, coming around again. When we see and experience echoes of prior energies, that we are different now than we were the first time we experienced them, or whatever previous time we were experiencing them, because now we're with it, coming to it with the wisdom, the tools and awareness that we gleaned through previously experiencing. So Venus rules over our relationships, and she's been working a lot on our heart centers over these last few months. So we may feel more settled when it comes to who we wish to surround ourselves with and our personal values as we move through the world. Venus also rules over money. So insights about profits, commissions, and income may also come to light as Venus moves into Aries. We may have to make some swift or perhaps harsh decisions when it comes to our finances, but sometimes we need to put our interests first. So I'm looking here, and some of that is speaking to our Knight of Pentacles as a blocker challenge this week for Tuesday, that beautiful Four of Wands as a midweek blessing, because again, our tribe, our people, those who we are building and co-creating with, and having maybe some clarity around those things coming in as well. So again, as we move through the week, we'll see how the messages come forward, but definitely feeling that connection. So then it's going to be May, right? So now we're talking about the rest of the week, 1st and 2nd into the 3rd being Saturday. I'm covering just another aspect here of energetic weather, but also just speaking as a whole, May 2025 is really holding a different energy than the months before it. So that's really going to be a welcomed change. This is the 5th month now of the year, so we're really going to start to turn a corner in terms of, where the energies are headed versus the culmination of everything that we brought in with us into the new year and the sifting through all of that. The planetary energies are on the move, so that's inspiring us to step forward and perhaps even take some leaps of faith. Thank you, Fool, for those messages that we had all throughout April. Time to take those leaps of faith. So we're hitting this new ground and feeling like we're emerging into a new and hopefully brighter chapter. After having 0 major planets in retrograde since April 13th, we break that spell on May 4th. So like I said, we have this lovely window just from today, the Sunday, as I'm recording this, to next Sunday, May 4th. With Pluto then stationing retrograde in Aquarius. This retrograde energy is subtle, and it won't be working on the deeper layers, or will be actually, because it's, the underworld, death, rebirth. It's going to be working on those deeper layers of our being. So we won't necessarily feel a slowdown in our outer world, but we may find ourselves reflecting and pondering on the transformations and changes that have unfolded in our lives since October of 2024. So that's just kind of a high level, just entering into May. And then the one aspect to touch on here from May 1st through 3rd is Venus conjunct Neptune. So Venus and Neptune come together in the sign of Aries, creating magical notes of harmony. So while both Venus and Neptune don't love to be in fiery Aries, their presence will bring a soothing calm, helping us to feel more compassionate and perhaps more open, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. Now, Venus and Neptune together can spark romance, creative inspirations, and help us to see beyond our current reality. It is also a nice planetary combination for spending time with those that we love or planning a relaxing getaway. Beautiful. All right, we're gonna dive into our messages, but I think I just had a realization of something I'll have to share before we move forward. 1 second here. Let's take a look. Quick story. I'm laughing because I just realized, looking over at that Four of Wands, I know last week we had some really interesting card combinations, and one of them was proposals, right? And I made the joke because I didn't know, who knows in our lives in the ways that these things can show up. And if, depending on if you are around, this generation for proms and formal dances, but it is now a thing. It was not a thing when I went to the prom a few years ago. But now there is a such thing as a promposal, where one would do some kind of a surprise themed proposal to their, the date that they're hoping to secure. So over the weekend, just yesterday, to finish out our tarot predictions for the week in terms of the potential for a proposal of some sort to show up, my daughter, who's a junior, I know she won't mind me sharing this, her new beau showed up at our house with this adorable sign. She plays softball, he plays baseball. He made this sign by hand: "Can I catch you at prom?" with her number on the softball and beautiful flowers, to formally propose that they accompany each other to the prom. So I just had that connection while I was going through the energetic weather I had to share, because in fact, we did experience a proposal, and certainly we'll have some prom photos to share, I'm sure, in the coming weeks when they go in mid-May. All right, let's now take a look at our Queen of the Moon message for our new moon in Taurus happening right now. All right, so kicking off our card messages, we have the Queen of the Moon coming in with this overarching energy for the new moon in Taurus with wisdom. Wisdom says, I use my knowledge to experience to make wise decisions. So, as I was touching on during the card poll, this is a card that speaks to how wisdom is more than just mere knowledge, that there may be something that you aren't seeing or need to research more thoroughly. That is of interest because our very first card is the Seven of Swords in the tarot spread that's saying, some type of sleight of hand, something we're not seeing. So we're going to build on that, but that's an interesting parallel. Wisdom is gathered, but it takes time. Learn from your experience. You might wish to ask the opinion of a wise mentor if you are uncertain. And it says, it's often said that the body has its own innate wisdom. If healthy, it just knows what to do and does what it needs to keep us alive and moving without thinking too much about it. Most of the time, we aren't aware of trying to keep our heart beating or if breathing while we're sleeping. So similarly, we have this innate reasoning system, intuition, that allows us to get answers or receive information without conscious thinking. It's that feeling or hunch of information or insight that is just there. And some people believe that this is the wisdom we receive from the gods, the very spark of the divine voices that is left within us. This is a very old kind of wisdom that sits in a very old part of the brain. Then there is the gathering of knowledge and experience and what we discern and learn from this. So if the result has acuity, if it is successful in the real world and good in sense and perception, it's most probably wise. So we're using our discernment and we're deducing that something is wise when it's checking those boxes. The getting of wisdom takes time usually, and we can be impatient for it. We might cut corners and not see the role that we take in our own poor decision making. Stacey DeMarco is saying, to me though, as modern people, we have millennia of wisdom to assist us. Human history has some very wise people starring in it and some not so wise. So we have plenty of examples from which to learn. Gathering wiser people around us is in fact one of the wisest things anyone can do. We cannot always know it all, and a wise mentor or friend can only save us from a poor decision, but also demonstrate how to be wise if we aren't quite there yet. Yeah, I mean, that is the Oracle's message about this card, and I think there's some really important points being made there. I also think that, yes, I think that there is a lot to be said about the notion that the garnering of wisdom is not necessarily something that's overnight. It takes time. You see her standing on that pile of books, which, kind of shows that beneath her, and again, we brought in Archangel Sandalphon here with a nod to the number 22, and he is the archangel that is at the Earth Star chakra, the energy center in our body at the base of our feet, where we connect with and touch the earth. And so underneath her and her Earth Star chakra, we see all of those books, all of the wisdom, all of the chronicles of those who have come before that she stands upon, which I think is interesting because, again, yes, some very wise people, some very wise understandings, and some not so wise, well-intentioned, perhaps, people or belief systems or things that we understood to be true, knowledge that we had gathered, that we have since built upon, expanded upon, or maybe even completely wiped and rewrote altogether. So I'm just feeling personally that those things are all true about wisdom tending to take time. At the same time, and I've mentioned this before, now more than ever, because we are coming into greater alignment with our wise selves, which we innately come in as a spark of the divine that holds all of that wisdom already, that we're not necessarily gathering it as much as we are remembering it and reaccessing it within ourselves and in the across the spiritual plane that we can tap into. So what I want to say there is that, there are a lot of people who are demonstrating a lot of wisdom, and in some cases, ancient wisdom, sooner, quicker, not necessarily having, and I've made this analogy before where, if I were to imagine that all those books were Encyclopedia Britannicas, right? Remember, it was like a thing that you would have a collection in your home library of Funk and Wagnalls or Encyclopedia Britannica, and that was our Google, right? That was where we could go to the pages that were in that printed, potentially outdated book. And yet now it is literally at our fingertips. It's literally instant that you can access so much information. It doesn't make the information wise, though. So again, the wisdom has to come from you in terms of your discernment, but also an understanding that we can access some of this wisdom much quicker than before. And so both, there's reverence for both. People who achieved positions of great wise positions through years and years of study and acumen and certificates and all of those things. And there may be some let's say younger people or new generation that are very quickly rising up in the wisdom that they're tapping into. And that's because that wisdom is there for all in any moment for us to access. So anyway, that's kind of like a little bunny trail there, but something that was just kind of coming through to me, feeling into these cards. And it was something about the fact that the sprays are sort of silver and gold. I mean, it's bronze, but like silver and gold, I'm thinking of a song from when I was a all girls camp, about make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver and the other gold. So silver and gold, new and old, like just something about this coming together of time and space. So I don't know. I'm just getting all kinds of stuff there, but I think in bringing it down to earth and grounding into this new moon in Taurus, which was our intention with this card pull, I think that there's been a lot unearthed in all of this work that was being done this first part of the year so far, that Taurus season and this new moon is really setting off for us a profound, significant opportunity to really start to take some tangible steps in this direction of what we are manifesting and ultimately harvesting. So that's kind of where I'm coming with this one. Like I said, we go much deeper in the new moon empowerment reading. So if you would like to get into that and work more closely with this very lovely new moon that we are in, please reach out. Okay, let's roll in now to our 5-card spread for the week. All right, we are kicking off our messages for the week with Monday's card coming in here as the Seven of Swords. And this one is always an interesting one in that, we can read into this card as an external sabotage, betrayal, or stealing type energy, and or internal aspects of self that are self-sabotaging or not being 100% honest with ourselves, or in some way. I use the phrase about this card often: don't let anyone steal your joy, not even your sneaky self. So sneaky aspects of ourself that may be more fear-based, lack mentality, lower vibrational energies, maybe playing out some old fears and things from the past, the ego energy, out of balance, that is stealing this present moment and the opportunity that we have at our fingertips right now to really make some really significant moves forward, especially, like I said, in this week's time frame before Pluto stations retrograde. So I'm kind of leaning towards that in my feeling, but again, everybody's going to come to this differently, where this guy can show up. And as it is outlined here from the spring Waite, it says, as the soldiers in a camp train further away, and you can see that they're out there in the distance and they're all together, and they don't even see this guy making out from the tent, taking 5 of the 7 swords with them. So that's where that story is coming from, that we see that they're training further away in the distance. A thief or saboteur runs away with a good portion of the army's weaponry, stealing or sabotaging their means of defending themselves. Their strength will weaken the army. So this card can also imply the stealing of ideas, plagiarism, digital theft, and even spying on one's campaign, business, or household. So again, like I said, there's many different ways this can show up. If this happens to be one that's getting your attention and you would like a personal card pull this week, feel free to let me know. If this card or any of the others are jumping out to you that you want to know more about or would like to expand on, we can do that for you. So again, for anyone who would like a personal card pull this week, please feel free to quick reply to this message or reach out in whatever way works for you, and we'll tap in for some more. But like I said, I think it's also noteworthy that he didn't take all 7, 5, and there's still 2 remaining. So that even if we feel that there is some type of a loss or some kind of fool me once, shame on me, but not fool me twice, right? Because I'm going to take my 2 swords and my intellectual property and my discernment and my dignity, and I'm going to move forward. So again, like I said, whether this is external or more internal, the swords too representing thoughts, beliefs, and ideas. So something is taking away with 5, leaving 2 behind. So we might not need all those swords either. Like in some cases, and again, this is just setting the tone for the week, but there's an energy of, some of this had to go, so that even if it initially feels like a loss or something that's been taken, or in some way, something that was yours, and there's this sense of like, yeah, but it was mine, whether it's an actual possessions or, this, as it was speaking to some of the other ways, ideas, plagiarism, digital theft, all those kind of things, that ultimately it leaves you with what you want to build from here, that actually it really feels all's well that ends well. So again, going to vary for everybody, but just kind of setting that energy in place as far as the different ways it can show up, and then we can expand on it from there. So let's take a look now at Tuesday's energy for our potential block or challenge. All right, Tuesday comes in with a potential block or challenge, and we have the slow and steady, methodical Knight of Pentacles, which is really aligning with this new moon in Taurus, this earthy energy. We can see that the fields are here. So there is this sense of, what we're planting, what we're tending to, as we are cultivating what we're growing, one pentacle at a time, one seed, one step, one intention at a time. So wherein is the block or challenge? Now, this Knight of Pentacles says, a knight sits on top of his horse, overlooking his plowed field. The horse is a Clydesdale workhorse and is the one responsible with its owner for plowing the field. On the horse's head, we can see oak leaves, which are said to symbolize strength, stability, and endurance, all of which relate very well to this card. The figure is a dependable man and will make a dedicated and good partner. He will probably be financially secure, or at least is working on a plan to eventually be so. Well, there we go. So we were just saying how some of the energies coming in with Mars and Pluto and some things that we're moving through right here and now with this new moon, that then those energies ripple out into our week ahead, can bring with them some instability on the world stage when it comes to finance, abundance in that way. So this could also be speaking to, the wider collective in terms of the steadiness of the pentacles in the way that it relates to material abundance, wealth, money, finance, etc. So I'm feeling all of that potentially as a wider message, as a challenge, right? And then also, like we said about challenging ourselves. And I love, again, that we're hearkening back to last week's challenge, which came in the position of Earth Day, with the Empress, who's back again in the beautiful position of Thursday for how we're growing, both bringing that earthy goodness, this sense of one deposit going into that bank account, that spiritual account, that garden that we are planting and tending to, nurturing, cultivating, birthing, but not without its potential labor pains, the contractions, the expansion, all the things that are a part of that, which nature mirrors back to us. So again, we can utilize that understanding of that planting, growing cycle as it can present challenge to us as we grow. So that's kind of what I'm feeling here with this Knight of Pentacles. Again, can be directly connected to finances, money, material abundance, the things that we're bringing forward. I'm seeing all those lines and those fields are straight. And yet we know that there are deviations. There are times where there's some rocks in the soil or we get caught up on things, again, tripping over those weeds. So again, that's all part of the process. So nothing really alarming me here, just showing me that, these energies are present. We're moving through. It does culminate with two major cards. So yes, significant energies ushering in a new month, which, as we talked about in the energetic weather, is bringing in some new, fresh, and potentially much appreciated energy. So let's take a look now at Wednesday for our midweek blessing. All right. We've got Wednesday coming in with a midweek blessing, a beautiful card, the Four of Wands, for celebration, milestones, tribe, coming together, home. And again, just like last week, we had a lot of potential for proposals and connections and births and pregnancies and all in every way, energetic, literal, etc. So this also, these Four Wands showing again that framework, that structure, and it is fire. So there is this sense of the spark and the energetic notion versus even physical, actual celebrations, gatherings. So, different ways that this can show up. And here it is, a midweek blessing. I'm going to try to share with you what's on the guidance from the spring Waite, but it kind of printed a little wonky. So I'm going to try to interpret it for you. So the Four of Wands is speaking to what we see here as two women with flowers in their hands welcome someone home after some time away. Ooh, that's a nice specific. Of course, we do not see who that someone is, and it may be the querent themselves or someone that they know. Regardless, it indicates being welcomed back home. There is an abundance of grapes hanging from the Four Wands, symbolizing a special occasion. Perhaps the special occasion is simply coming back home after some time away. Nothing more, but it can indicate celebrations of all kinds, including weddings, christenings, and in this case, Easter Sunday dinner is what they're saying, since this deck is dedicated to the spring season. That is very interesting. A lot of kids are coming home from college. I know we're about 2 weeks out, who's counting, for our oldest to come home. We're very excited for her to finish her first year of college and come home. So homecomings, I love that, because we're really speaking to, they do look as though they're waiting for someone. Could be you. So what that was saying is you may be coming home to something, returning home from somewhere, or being greeted or greeting someone in your actual home, your hometown, leaving town, coming back, all the different variations of that. So that's a very interesting, specific way of looking at this energy showing up as a blessing this week. I know after being away, I loved when we come home as long as I didn't leave everything too crazy. Always try to clean up a little bit, because it's that good feeling of walking back through your familiar doors and the, familiar sights and smells and feels of home. No place like home, yada, yada. So I'm feeling all that energy too of homecomings and, like it said, milestone celebrations. So that could be very specifically for people showing up literally. And then again, this energetic frequency of abundance and bounty and magical. I love with the rainbow, the grapes, the celebratory energy, the flowers all feel very, very positive. So some good midweek vibes coming in here. And this, of course, is the final day of April, culminating the month. Let's take a look now at our Thursday beauty with the Empress. All right, Thursday, she's back again, and it's perfect here in Taurus season, Taurus new moon energies, the Empress coming in for how we are growing. How have we grown throughout this past month? And now she's here on May Day. So I love that energy coming in here for us. And it is a major arcana card. So that denotes significant energy that we're looking to here. Now, the Empress, as she's depicted here, the spring Waite says, a woman wearing a daffodil patterned robe sits on her throne out in nature. She represents Mother Nature. Yellow tulips in the foreground in front of her. A river flows into her garden, reminding us that there is always abundant elements coming into the scene to create life. The rainbow is another reminder that life-giving rains are nearby. She represents all forms of birth and growing things. So yeah, literally, how are we growing? Back to our spread. And this is where then you see how when you are doing an empowered tarot reading or oracle card reading, why we would use spreads to set specific intentions and meaning for the different positions. She comes in literally representing growing of all things. And our intention was, how are we growing? In every way, in profound ways, in lush, abundant ways. There's a lot of growth available right now. So again, where your attention and energy flows, that is where things will come forward. So we talked about that a lot last week. Still very much present here as we're looking at how we are co-creating and collaborating or laboring together to birth this new earth that she represents for us. Taurus season is bringing forward for us. So this feels really aligned as we now step into a fresh month, May, a solid month of spring energy in the northern hemisphere and autumn energy in the southern hemisphere, both representing this period of change and transformation that's undergoing. So again, really attuning ourselves to earth, to the seasons, and tapping in accordingly. So I really love her coming forward for us yet again, another week, and really feels quite aligned in these energies. Let's take a look at our final tarot card for April and for the week. All right, Friday, May 2nd, bringing in this beautiful Wheel of Fortune. I think it's the first time it's come up all month. And of course, we've been looking at it in our backdrop for the whole month. And on the final day of the last day we're using this spread, we get Major Arcana card 10, the Wheel of Fortune, coming full circle, endings, new beginnings. The wheel turns into a new month now. And of course, like I said, next week we'll be bringing in new intuitively selected decks and altar elements and intentional words for reflection as well. So here and now, Wheel of Fortune in Friday's position, wrapping up the week, wrapping up the month, we have this energy coming in where it says a white rabbit sits on top of a wooden wheel. Attached to the wheel for decorative purposes are bouquets of flowers. On the top left of the card, we see blue tits, common in UK and elsewhere in spring. Butterflies on the top right. Bottom right, we see ducklings amidst the bulrushes and a lamb amidst daffodils on the bottom left. Finally, to complete the scene, we have a rainbow on the top half of the card and its watery reflection on the bottom. This card represents a change of fortune. This can be in the negative or in the positive, depending on the querent's current situation. If one is in a bad situation, this is a good omen. It means things will take a turn for the better. If one is in a good situation currently, things may change for the worse. Now, again, this creator's interpretation. Typically, the Wheel of Fortune indicates a fortuitous turn of events. But nonetheless, there is a time and a season for all, and the wheel turns, and this too shall pass. And also this moment of abundant, positive goodness also is fleeting or not permanent. So in either direction, we have an opportunity to attune ourselves to wherever we find ourselves and make it our intention, like it's our job to harvest from whatever we are experiencing, all the goods, the wisdom, right? The lessons, the blessings, all of it, and releasing the rest. So, there is just this sense of the impermanence of things that somehow, we blink and we move from 2024 to 2025. We blink and we move from first quarter to second quarter. We blink and it's May and onwards, so there is this sense of time moving, the wheel turning. But the other thing I'm getting there is, using that word omen, talking about things happening like as if by destiny, which is another thing that's associated with the Wheel of Fortune, can be luck, destiny, many different ways for us to look at fate versus karma versus, all the different ways of sort of reconciling how it is that we move through this human life on the Fool's Journey. And I've shared previously an interesting way of looking at things in terms of that which we call destiny, the things that are out of our control, that are just destined to happen. There's a perspective where destiny is simply the will of our higher selves, the will of our wise self, that from in some time and space, from the highest available frequency, our wise self set out on this fool's journey in this lifetime with the intention of experiencing different lessons, blessings for healing, growth, and expansion of the soul. And that desire doesn't always match with our human desire, right? With our human wishes. So therefore, when things just happen and it seems like fate or destiny, and we experience it that way, there's also a way to look at it, to expand upon that understanding and say that that fate or destiny is something that's putting me on the track of the will of my higher self. And, this is where tools like the cards, tuning into the cosmic energies and really aligning yourself in a way that feels authentic to you, right, can better position you to connect with your wise self. And again, we talked about this when we feel it in our body, just innately. That's what wisdom was bringing in for us with this Queen of the Moon card, is when you use that inner truth detector, then even when things that are bad or negative or non-preferred occur, we can sort of calibrate ourselves to connecting in with the highest available perspective to glean greater understanding as to why at soul level I may be choosing this experience at this time for my greater good. Okay, that goes all kinds of places, but that's just giving you what's coming up for me, wrapping up a month and launching us into a new month that's, coming in with fresh energy that we have this opportunity to really explore. So again, significant that we got 2 major arcana cards for the first 2 cards of May. So we'll be expanding on that next week for sure. New decks, new elements. But for this week, again, if you would like a personal card pull to get more specific for you, please let me know and we will have a look. Let's finish things off with our final card coming from the Song of the Grandmothers. All right, the final message for this week and to close out the month of April is coming from the Song of the Grandmothers with Grandmother Spider, Creativity. It says, drops of dew bead Grandmother Spider's web as if to highlight the many worlds of potent creativity and possibility that exist in tandem with the gossamer strands of her craft. The space she occupies is bold and fertile with rich color available to her to draw from. Creation is life. It is the how of our existence and the vital force running through our veins. Grandmother Spider knows its secrets. While she's at home in resplendent gardens, she also blesses the humblest of places with her webs, from window ledges to rundown fences to that bathroom corner behind the toilet. Recognize within yourself the same impetus to create wherever you are. This is your birthright. Own it unreservedly. Set aside any fears or doubts about your capability. It does not matter whether others understand, value, or even witness your creation. Weaving your web is an act of faith that you have the right to exist in the world. Know, too, that you decide which connections to draw on or to sever ties with. Call on the timeless industry of Grandmother Spider to help you spin your thread and build the world you wish to live in. Her head and body are symbolic of the infinity sign and remind us that the possibilities are endless. And she says, "Come weave with me, child. You know all the words and melodies and pictures by heart. Unlock the vault inside you and let them out." Beautiful. So yeah, totally ending here with Metatron vibes, bringing in that flame attunement energy for really connecting in as a master weaver, light weaver. What will you weave in this world? And I'm going to share here the link to my old blog post that was a summary of experiences that I had through my Metatron attunement and studies, levels 1 and 2, where from the onset, the spider showed up literally over my shoulder on my couch as I was preparing to do the very first attunement to Metatron's energy. The spider was orange. We couldn't make it up. All of these references ensued from there. And Metatron gave me this really powerful understanding that we have a choice whether we are going to be the architects of our life or if we're going to get caught up in the sticky web. So this was part of the spider medicine that came in to say, you choose, you decide, you create for you. And it's not about what it looks like to others or how they may perceive of it when you are creating from that very pure place. So really beautiful. I love how that's all weaving together and perhaps, kind of leaving me with some spiritual breadcrumbs to carry forward into May when I start thinking about, what I want to bring in here on the altar space and the energies that are coming in. So we'll expand on that, but I think that's a beautiful finish to all of these messages for this week and the whole of April. So once again, thank you so much for being here. Take a look here for the links that I'm sharing, the references I've mentioned throughout, the opportunities for you and I to connect more comprehensively in this coming week. And then stay tuned for the May Empowerment Sharecast coming up next. I'm sending you all so much love and many, many blessings. Onward to May.